Everyone, welcome to today's session, How to Fix Your Leaky Lead Faucet. We'll be discussing lead management challenges and solutions that our client Honey Dooman has experienced, as well as digital marketing strategies that have worked well for them. I'm super excited to introduce you all to our guest speakers, but before we get started, I'll run through today's agenda and webinar housekeeping. All right, so for today's agenda, we'll start with quick intros from the panelists, move into the panel discussion, and then we'll open it up to the audience for Q&A at the end. If you're sitting in and listening, please make sure to mute your mic so there are no noise distractions in the background. Also, we are recording this session and we'll send everyone a follow-up email with the recording after the event. We want to keep the session educational, so if any questions pop up, please throw them in the chat so we can get to them at the end during Q&A. I also wanted to thank our featured guest and client, Honey Dooman, for taking the time out of their day to join us. Honey Dooman is a home services and repair company based out of New York that do anything from complete home renovations to one-off projects. I also want to thank our partner, Smith AI, for participating in this webinar as well. Smith AI is a virtual reception and chat solution that we use here at Smart Sites and recommend to a ton of our clients. If you have any questions or would like to try them out, we do have a partner code with them where you can save $100 on services. Lastly, for those of you who don't know Smart Sites, we are a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in SEO, PPC, email marketing, and social media marketing. If you're ever curious about what you could be doing differently, I highly encourage getting a free audit from us. We'll provide you with a ton of suggestions on how to improve your website and get more traffic. All right, so let's jump into quick introductions. Could each panelist tell us a little bit about what they do, how long they've been doing it for, and what they're looking forward to this year? We'll start with Max.
Yep. Hi, everybody. So I'm the Chief Business Development Officer here at Honey Dooman, and so I'm responsible for the sales department, the marketing department, and some of our strategic development broadly.
Awesome. And what are you looking forward to this year?
Oh, right. Sorry. What am I looking forward to this year? More webinars.
Same. All right. What about you, Scott?
I'm Scott. I'm the Chief Operations Officer here. I'm responsible for training new salesmen, helping with finance, production, the jobs going on, the customer service reps, basically everything that Max is not responsible for. And I do help with some of the marketing stuff. Basically, I'm responsible for putting all of the new initiatives that Max develops into place and into action and making sure that they're running efficiently. What I'm looking forward to this year is continued growth with the company.
Love it. All right, next up is Tom.
Hey everyone, Tom Armitage here from Smith AI. As Cass said, we're a 24/7 virtual receptionist and live chat solution. And what's really cool about this webinar is Smart Sites is one of our agency partners and Honey Dooman is one of our customers. So it's a really great fit to bring us all here together. And we put a lot of emphasis on not missing calls, because that obviously leads to missed opportunities with potential clients, and also speed to lead, being able to respond much more quickly to those form fills and those phone calls that come in, which obviously makes for a much healthier sales pipeline. So really excited about this conversation. It's a good one for us to be having. Something that I'm looking forward to this year, my wife and I are expecting. So we have a baby coming at the end of August. So really excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, John.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm John from the Smart Sites end. Here at Smart Sites, I am the small business team lead and also just the project manager on the Honey Dooman project with Scott and Max. What I'm looking forward to this year is the launch of the new Honey Dooman website. Would be what I'm most looking forward to.
Can I change my answer to that too?
Just looking forward to not have to work on it anymore.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. That's a huge rollout. That'll be great. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for the intros. I guess we can hop into our first question. So, what is Honey Dooman? I know I kind of already talked about it, but and how have you gotten new leads in the past?
So as Cassandra, you spoke to, Honeydew Men is a home remodeling and repair company. We do everything from cleaning gutters to building full additions, plumbing, roofing, masonry, siding. Basically, if it exists in the construction realm, we do it. It was started by Daryl. He had a little sedan and a ladder that he held on top of his roof, and he started out cleaning gutters locally. And that was 22 years ago, and it's developed into this. Historically, how we got our leads, it was a lot of word of mouth, the trucks, signage. We did do some print marketing, Clipper Magazine, Direct Advantage, sending out postcards, but we certainly didn't have as robust a marketing strategy as we have now. It was basically word of mouth, signs, and our trucks.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So I know you've been with Smart Sites for about 3 years, and we've done pretty much like full digital marketing. So design, SEO, PPC, email, and social. What has been the digital strategy so far?
Yeah, so Cassandra, that's all very true, and I guess you touched on a number of the elements of that strategy, but speaking more broadly, Honeydew Men for the first 20 years, not counting these last 3, has really kind of, like Scott alluded to earlier on, started with a guy and a ladder and a Honda Civic, if you can conjure up that visual. Over time, it really kind of stayed in that space of gutters, roofing, handyman, and sort of positioned that way in the minds of the consumers. Now, we're in suburban life out here, right? So once you've positioned yourself a certain way, that's kind of how people know you, and you have a kind of an uphill challenge ahead of you. So our strategy over the last couple of years has been sort of undoing a little bit of that, not so much undoing, I suppose, but broadening it to match our actual reality, which is that we are a full service remodeling company, and we are entirely capable of accommodating much larger scale projects, and that could be everything up to and including new construction. And so that has been a big focus for us in terms of broad strategy. But to the list of things you've mentioned, not on that list, I think we're enjoying our run with the Google guaranteed service provider, the LSAs. We have some Microsoft ads out there running, some CTV stuff, some OTT stuff, some geofencing. Really, we're big on a really robust marketing mix, kind of an old school marketing student in that way. And that doesn't really end with digital for us. I think that's our philosophy in terms of other mediums as well.
Great. And then John, can you add to that as far as like what campaigns and digital strategies we've implemented for Honeydew Men?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of like Max had mentioned, we did do a revamp in the beginning, just going through and making sure that all the services that are offered are listed on the site. We have a page for that. The content is optimized for SEO. In the meantime, what we did too for any existing pages is we went back and redid those as well. And even on the new site that we've been working on, we've even buffed that out even further with the content, with more details, more images, just overall a really good revamp and a bigger optimization than we made previously. As far as strategy, I can touch upon probably one here in specific that performed well, and kind of just go through all the pieces from the Smart Sites end that we did work on. But the strategy does depend a little bit on seasonality, just depending on the timing with Honeydew Men, just because they are in New York. So we do have the winter season and summer. So the big push, at least when we were coming last year around, I want to say February, March, is when we start to push out for roofing and siding, because people start to think about that as the weather warms up for spring. So with that campaign, what we did is we went through and internally, and even with Max Scott and the Honeydew Men team, we have a weekly call where we all sync together to make sure that we're all on the same page. So what we did at that point for the roofing and siding is we went through, and at least from my end on the SEO end, we made sure that we had a page that was optimized, made sure that the design was newer and functioned the way we wanted, new contact forms at the top, making the CTAs easier for people to submit an inquiry And then on that point, we also created a blog post for the benefits of new siding or fixing your siding and roofing repair, new roofing, which was then rolled out through email marketing and social media. So we utilized it on that end. And then even just from a PPC end, what we're doing is running a higher bid strategy on the roofing and siding, but also YouTube videos. Honeydew Men has a great partner. I think Jeff's on here, Good For You Productions, who does a lot of the video work, or let me say all the video work for the most part there, but does an awesome job. So we were able to get a lot of assets for videos that actually coincided with those services. And when we had the videos in the email and even through YouTube, we saw a big jump in engagement from users as well. So with all of this kind of just bumped together, what we also did is the last piece was with that blog, also push it out on the Google business profile too, just so we had that all there. So we were making sure that we were pushing this from all angles. With this, we did see an increase. It was about 25 to 30% just year over year when we were looking, just in regards to traffic and the leads that were coming in. So just for a specific example, that's one of the strategies that we went through, is just making sure that when we choose a service we want to push, that all the departments and everyone who's involved is on the same page and working towards that same goal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just like aligning all the departments to really, showcase that initiative that you're working on. Well, great. Thank you so much for the background on what has been working well the past couple of years. I guess looking forward, what are the marketing goals for this year that you guys are currently working on?
Well, I'll be optimistic. I think my marketing goals for this year are to have more marketing goals. No, jokes aside, from a narrow perspective, our marketing goals for this year are to really hone in on what it is that is actually coming in. And what I mean by that, just to kind of open that up a little bit, anyone can do this, right? You buy ads, you get leads. It seems pretty simple on the surface, but the reality of the situation is that not all leads are created equal. Well, I can't speak for other spaces. That's certainly true here. And not all lead sources are created equal. So in many cases, again, particularly true in our space, there are these resellers of leads, Angie, House, just to name a few, but there's certainly a lot of them. And they tend to compete with us quite directly in the market for those leads. Because they're larger companies, they're able to generally outperform local competitors and then turn around and resell those leads right back to you. It's a tough thing because they're not just selling you that lead and then you have that lead, they're selling it to you and your competitor and your competitor and your competitor and on and on. And what ends up happening is that by the time you get to that person, unless you're speed to lead, which is becoming more and more of a congested space with software add-ons like Hatch and things like that, it's really hard to split those seconds to try to be at the front of the line. We find that it's much more beneficial to compete with them directly rather than buying out their leads and then having to contend with the cold leads that we end up being served. So aside from that, it's also about taking a critical look at our actual leads aside from those type of providers and sort of always knocking out the low man on the totem pole. And this really comes down to, this isn't instinct, this isn't gut, this has to be a data-driven decision, and your data is only as good as the data coming in. So if you have built a robust enough system where you can trust the data coming to you so you can make these executive calls, then you're able to start knocking out those lower end providers that are not converting as steadily as some of the other ones. And so I think from that narrow perspective, our goal is to really try to keep that low man out and replace it with something hopefully more viable, test, and then recycle. So that's essentially the plan.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. And I know you mentioned like a few different channels, and that kind of like leads me into my next question, which is, what specific tools or platforms have you found to be the most effective for your website? Sales and digital marketing, could be anything.
Well, it's almost like every day there's a new tool, which is wonderful, and we love it, and so it's super exciting. Um, we're definitely big on AI here. So definitely ChatGPT is leading the pack there. But it's we don't limit our experience to that, but it's certainly found its a quick home with us. I think the adoption curve on AI is just staggering, how quickly it's come around. Aside from that, obviously, well, I mean, partners here, Smith AI has been super. Definitely a feather in our cap there. For email, we love Brevo. It's been really good to us. It syncs up with our CRM, another piece of technology we lean into quite heavily. Although surprisingly not the crowning jewel of our platform collection, actually, we're really proud of something that we built organically ourselves. And this was born out of a necessity because our CRM wasn't able to achieve all of our needs in the way that we would have them. So we went outside of the box, worked with a developer, and worked out something that is authentically ours and helps us fill in the gaps, especially in the reporting space, so we can get that data a little bit more in real time and in a way that we need to receive it. A lot of these tools, the problem is they're designed by academics who aren't in your space, and they think they know what you need, and the reality is they rarely do. You know what you need, but you are rarely a developer. And so I think one of the things that makes me and Scott work so well together is that we kind of have that skill set between the two of us, and we're able to bring that in and bring the best out of our developers as a consequence. And I suppose that doesn't stop with our little third-party tool, because by being an informed consumer, we're also able to bring the best out of our partners, such as Smith AI, Smart Sites, and on. And of course Zapier. Who doesn't use Zapier, right?
Max, can you help explain how your organization is set up? Because obviously technology and tools are fantastic, and they're essential to helping businesses get work done. But most organizations can't rely on them 100%. You need to have actual people and talent inside of the organization that's able to take it and approach it much like a handoff, right? So help us understand what the structure of the organization looks like and what roles exist where, so we can kind of fill in the blanks of where the technology is enabling those staff members.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. It is all about stitching the mechanical with the biological in so many ways. So the way we're set up is we're very human resource reliant in that all the calls are handled by real people here at the desk, at least during on hours. Off hours, we have you guys to help, which is awesome because it does create that seamless experience for the consumer. We have those nice clean handoff from the service department directly to the sales department. They can run out their leads, etc. We have some support staff in the production space that can assist them with both sales functions and shepherding the jobs through their necessary processes, and then a quality assurance layer there behind to shore things up. And technology certainly plays a considerable role throughout the process, but it's probably the most pronounced in the beginning stages, which is our lead intake pipeline, as those leads manifest and how they move their way through the pipeline thereafter. Is that roughly what you were looking for, or do you need me to flesh it out?
No, that's perfect. I just want to tee it up so that way once we get into actually like the lead management, they know who's doing what inside of your organization. That's great.
Makes sense.
Perfect. Thank you so much for elaborating on that, because that's really important to have that context. So I guess my next question would be, since we mentioned Smith AI, how long have you guys been using Smith, and what problem were you facing before you teamed up with them?
So we've been using Smith AI for roughly 2.5 years, right around the time that Max started with the company. I've been here now almost 5 years, and I started out as a customer service representative, so the very beginning of the lead intake pipeline. And there was a pretty long time where I was the only customer service rep. We had about 5 employees in the company at that time. Now we have closer to 30 in the office. We had nothing but a voicemail and we didn't even have like a dedicated inbox to the leads coming in. So calls would come in, I'd answer as many as I could. It would be the end of the day. We'd end up with a number of voicemails. I'd come in the next morning, start listening to voicemails and reaching back out to customers while the phone was still ringing. So to try to keep pace with how as busy as we were then, and only myself, we definitely lost a lot of leads just because we couldn't get back to them in time. I'd say maybe 30 to 40% of the leads, people I would call them, they already had the work completed. They found a different contractor. They weren't really thrilled with the fact that it took 3 to 4 days to get back to them. So at that point, we were just losing customers, even though we had generated the lead initially. The process basically started the same. A call would come in, an estimate would get scheduled, the estimator would go out, take a look, run the lead, try to sell the job to the customer. There wasn't really much segmentation in our leads as far as like potential customers, as far as why leads were canceled, as far as customers we weren't able to get back in touch with. And so we really didn't know what was working and what wasn't working. We didn't really have a very good grasp on the marketing aspect of it or the lead generation aspect of it. So as we started to bring in more employees, to expand, to segment out our lead pipeline, we've been able to get a much better understanding of, okay, this is working, this isn't working. Okay, we need to respond back to this customer quicker. Okay, this is a type of work that we've been getting a lot of calls about, but it's not something that we specifically do. Maybe we should expand in that area. So once we started using Smith AI, the web forms through smart sites, the automated phone systems, having all of that information in one place in a dedicated area certainly enabled our team to get back to these customers quicker, which showed our dedication to customer satisfaction. And we've been able to convert a lot more leads because of it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm great to hear all that. I think, especially when you're investing so much into SEO and PPC, like you want to make sure that you're actually converting those leads and there's not, leads getting wasted. So super happy about our partnership with Smith and, kind of helping optimize that lead flow. Moving on to the next question. This one's for you, Max, actually. Can you share some examples of how virtual reception has improved the sales process?
Yeah. So I don't think it's sort of limited to the sales process, and unless we look at it from the perspective of everything leading up to the sales process, part of the sales process. But virtual reception has helped our client intake to be smoother, which in turn translates into faster sales and more efficient closing. To be specific, the handling of those conversations that our team isn't able to handle in real time. We don't have our own asynchronous chat or anything of that nature, so they're running the phones and doing all the other pieces. So having kind of like sprouting an extra arm really, and getting that handled to the same quality that we've come to expect and kind of represent to our clients organically, has been kind of a real boon to us, because those things come in just as readily. They're immediately metabolized through our system, and and they end up where they need to go in real time. This would be quite different had it not been there, because what we would end up having to do is kind of put those on the back burner, get to them as we get to them, and try to then assimilate them into our flow. And as we touched on earlier, everything is shifting to this sort of speed to lead approach. And well, the longer you keep things on ice, the worse off your sales are. And so in that way, it's affected us quite directly.
And Tom, I don't know if you want to jump in here, but are there any additional use cases that we could talk about when it comes to, Smith and virtual reception in general?
Yeah, let me first just reiterate what the story that Scott was saying, because it's so vitally important. So he was coming in. We had obviously a conversation before leading up to this webinar, so I know a little bit more than what he said on this call. But he would come in on Monday mornings and have just a boatload of calls that would come in, roll the voicemail. He'd have to vet them, log them, call them back. And as he just said, a lot of those deals would be lost because they would have moved on to the next competitor. you and I are consumers as much as we are, involved in the businesses that we work for. So when we go to make a purchase, whether it's an HVAC system, construction, anything around the house, when we're vetting out vendors, we're going down the list of those that appear in a Google search, whether it's organic or paid ads, and we're just calling the first, calling the second, calling the third. We're comparing prices. We're trying to weigh those up. You're not even putting yourself in the runnings if you're not able to have that conversation in real time. So the fact that Honey Dooman were having to wait just based on the infrastructure that they had at the time, a couple days, they were losing those deals. It's not like there's a chance of you losing the deals. You are losing deals if you're not picking up those phone calls. So the fact that we were able to plug into their systems and able to handle those calls on nights and weekends, or we can even do overflow if their current staff is currently on the line, it rolls over to us to make sure that 100%, literally 100% of those calls are being picked up and handled in real time. It avoids those potential customers from moving on to the next one and possibly going to the competitor. So patching that hole is absolutely essential for any sort of business that relies on, the phone as being a main driver of leads. So that's a really, really important point that Scott was trying to make with the role that we play within their system. And the second thing that I'll mention too is we can also do live chat, and it'll work around the same in the same type of vein. So I come from the agency background, and I had worked with a lot of clients that they were interested in live chat and they didn't have anybody to manage the live chat, especially on nights, weekends, and when they were called into meetings. Like they would put the receptionist or whoever might be the office administrator on duty to manage the live chat. And anytime that person got a phone call or got pulled into some other sort of responsibility, they knew that those live chats were going to go unattended to. Obviously, now with the rise of AI, you can build some pretty smart chat bots and in Q&A and playbooks to be able to guide customers through those prompts. But it still is really, really important to have a human being involved in that. And that is also something that Smith AI is able to offer. So that way you can make sure that you have a very sophisticated chat on your site, able to gather and intake new leads and have conversations. And what the AI is not able to provide, our live human agents are able to provide. So it runs parallel with the phone calls. You can do phone call and chat, and that makes for a much richer lead intake system.
Honestly, Tom, if I could just jump in for a second to build on your thought a little bit. This is one of those things that ends up slipping through the cracks for a lot of folks, especially folks that haven't really been doing what we're discussing here, right? Like really, this is alien. There's an incidental benefit that's not often talked about in the context of the sales pitch. Hey, when you buy this, you're going to get that. This is one of those incidental things, but it's quite important because what you get from looking at the data coming to you in the kind of robust way that you're talking about, from a full transcript of an AI handled conversation or even a live agent handled conversation, the ability to record those and kind of play them back to yourself. If you take that data into context for yourself, you're really getting something that you don't normally get. Because normally, you're in the office, if you're not an absentee boss and you're here and you're listening, you get bits and pieces. But that's not enough. You're talking about the kind of thing that you can contextualize that data. You can sort that data. You could put it to use in real time and then use that information to inform your decision making, to inform your strategy. I mean, broadly. And it's an indispensable piece of value that I think is, again, largely overlooked, but certainly worth underscoring.
Yeah, we've gotten really comfortable as consumers with needing immediate responses, right? And this it was leading up to this point for decades. Really, with the emergence of social media, it was like, okay, you reach out to someone on Twitter, DM, Best Buy, or whatnot, and you were expecting a reply, within 24 hours. Then it was 18 hours. Then it was 15 hours. Then it was 12 hours. And the research was showing that our expectation as buyers, as consumers, it was that attention span was shortening as we continue to become more ingrained with this digital world that we live in. So I want you to listen to this stat real quick. The faster that you respond to leads, the more likely you are to convert those deals. If you respond within 1 minute to a lead that comes in, you're going to increase your conversion rate by almost 400%. If you respond within 1 minute. That's from CallRail, and I can drop the stat. And CallRail is awesome. They're reputable. They're one of the best call tracking software out there. responding within 1 minute. That's the expectation now. That's what we live in, is businesses need to be that responsive. And obviously you don't have the manpower necessarily, inside of your organization to do that. So you need to rely on technology and third-party partners in order to help you with that. And that's what it boils down to.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on to our final question, and I think I could open this up to all of the panelists here, but I'll start off with Scott and Max on this one. What's your advice to service businesses starting out?
So I guess my biggest piece of advice to service businesses starting out is to not forget the customer. The customer's the main thing. You need to be customer centric. You need to be focused on customer satisfaction. Obviously, you need to make sure your marketing is in line. You have the right people in place, that you have the tools to succeed, that you're doing a good quality of work. But I feel like a lot of times some of these service providers, you call a place, you try to speak to someone, and it seems like they forget that you're the customer. That I'm like trying to spend money with you. You don't get treated right when you're on hold, when you're speaking to a customer service representative. It seems that a lot of these especially larger organizations, don't have any focus on the customer itself. Like they treat the customer like they're expendable. And so when you're first starting out, your customer is your best friend. You need to be wholly focused on making that one customer happy before you get focused on making the next customer happy. If you continue to make customers happy, you continue to provide a great quality of work through word of mouth, through your marketing strategies, and through everything else, your business will grow and you'll be able to sustain it. But put the customer first.
I'm a firm believer that anybody only understands any given subject matter as well as they're capable of communicating that to another human being. And so to borrow on that idea, I think that somebody starting out, you should really seek to understand, really take ownership of what you are before you go out there trying to explain it to other people. Really understand yourself and the nature of the entity that you're starting out with before you put things out there. And I mean that in the marketing context, of course, because there's a lot of folks out there who get in the space, they kind of know what they're about, they kind of know what they're capable of, and they, I'll figure it out later. And there's a certain truth to that too. We've all been in a position where we're kind of building the plane while flying it, which frankly, there's nothing wrong with. And very often that's what it takes to succeed. But at the core, at the heart of it, you really have to do some introspection. What do you want to be? Where are you headed? Because if you don't know where you are, it's really tough to figure out where you're going to end up. Now, in less platitudes and in more pragmatic practical terms, I suppose the one thing I would really want to impress on anyone getting started is understand the role that data plays in business, in your business. Make decisions based on that, not solely on your instinct. Instinct is great in the absence of data, but really in the year 2024, you should not have an absence of data. And if you do, that is your first problem to solve.
That's great advice. I don't know, Tom or John, do you want to chime in on all? Any advice for, people starting out?
Yeah, I'll speak up. I think it's really, really important to choose the right tools and tech and make sure that they speak well with each other. So we're just inundated with people begging us to do business with them that work for software companies. If you sign into LinkedIn, you probably have 5 messages just from sitting here on this webinar waiting for you. So there's plenty of options that exist out there, and you need to do your due diligence into vetting them, testing them, trialing them, and making sure that they work for your unique situation, because every business is different and everyone needs to set up their instances a little bit different. But then you can't stop there, because there's so much efficiency added when there's integrations involved, when you're able to connect this system to this system to this system to this system. So the fact that we can plug into, not to keep emphasizing what we do, but we plug into Honey Dumen's situation, their system here. We take the calls. We can do booking directly on their calendar. We can send them summaries. We can log that, through workarounds if you don't have a native integration into the CRM. So there's lots of automation and efficiency that's built in, and there's a ton of accuracy of that data when you're able to plug those systems in together. Because anytime you're removing the ability for a human to have to copy and paste, or even worse, transcribe, you're running a huge risk for there to be errors in that data and affecting the data integrity and slowing down that process of being able to communicate with rich information to that customer, which elevates that customer experience. So choosing the right tools and making sure they integrate and play well with one another is probably my biggest recommendation.
Choosing the right tools and the right partners, Tom. I want to back you up on this one because, I think I missed the mark earlier by not bringing this into light for you guys. So I'm going to reclaim my time for a second. But no, that's the reality of it. Because without surrounding yourself with people who are experts in their specific spaces, it is really difficult. No matter how much background you have in any given discipline of, just the pillars of marketing, never mind tech. It's virtually impossible to be the smartest person in the room on any given topic. So you really just need to be smart enough to identify who is and bring those people into your space. And I mean, for us, we've been really fortunate to be able to have, two great partners right here on this call. And again, I say partners, not vendors. There's plenty of people I buy from who are vendors. Partners, something different. These are people who are willing to carve out, one day, hour out of their day every single week, be there like clockwork, really align with you, sit through listening to other people who they don't work with, other partners I have on the same call, and align with them. That's the kind of thing you're looking for from anyone you want to be spending money with. To not have that is to really kind of get an inferior service. And frankly, there's a cost for that.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add. John, did you have any advice for digital marketing for people starting out?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think Max and Tom both said it, but choosing the right partner is definitely a big piece of this. Making sure everyone's aligned on the same goals is definitely a big piece. But from a digital end, there's definitely a couple things that you want to pay mind to when you're starting out from a service business perspective or even small business. One is just defining your target audience. Make sure that you know who you're reaching out to, who your customer is. That way you can make sure that everything you're doing is tailored towards that specific customer that you're trying to intake. To create a website that looks professional. It's the most times the first impression that someone's going to have of your business, and the first impression in most cases is going to be the most important impression that you do make. So that is definitely a big piece and something I know that we've been working on with Honey Dumen. Just making sure the site's optimized for search engines, SEO optimized. That's definitely important because a lot of people are going to leverage Google search, and there are people who will go through and who are savvy to the ads and go down to just like the organic listings to also reach out. So definitely important to leverage that. Leverage content marketing. So adding relevant content to the site, buffing that out, making sure it's high quality, making sure that it can educate the user and give them information that they definitely need. Utilizing social media as well, which is something we're doing for Honey Dumen. It's a great tool to make sure that you can have some cross-platform synergy from your website to social and across the board, and get some engagement from users in real time as well. This is big for service industry, but collect and showcase your customer reviews and testimonials. What Honey Dumen does, along with the help of Jeff and Good For You Productions, is actually get some video testimonials as well that we've been able to roll out on the site and also across social or feature in an email. So that's super good to have, and make sure that you're also giving Google or the customers trust signals. So in the fact of Max, it's whether they're BBB A+ rated or they're top 100 Angie's list or Inc. 5000. You want to make sure that you have these badges on the site. It's a trust signal for users. Another thing is just offer value with email marketing. So make sure, I know Max, we've done this as well. Make sure that you're keeping people engaged with email, but also you can utilize running out special promotions, discounts through email to get people to sign up and entice them. And it's just another reach for you to your customers. Definitely invest in paid advertising, like Max had noted before, LSA, which is on the Google's and Google Ads side of things was definitely super successful at the moment for him. But also a lot of your competitors, if you're in the service industry, are going to be competing in that market as well. So I would definitely say that's an important piece. And then the final I'd say here is monitor and analyze your results and make your choices based on those results and data when possible. And then I think Max had the good one. If you don't have the data, just go with your gut, definitely. But in most cases, we utilize the data that we do have to make the decisions that we're making.
It's kind of the nuclear option.
Yeah, but that's what I'd say is most important, or advice for small service businesses.
Awesome. Yeah, all the quotes about data in the chat are pretty great. So appreciate the insights there. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your thoughts. I think what I'd like to do next is just open it up to the audience and see if anybody has any questions. I haven't seen any in the chat yet, but if you have anything, feel free to pop it in the chat, or even better, you can unmute yourself and just start asking away.
Hey, Cass, while they're typing, can I ask you guys for a favor? So our finance manager and our CEO are also watching us. They're in Mexico, but it's Rachel, her birthday, and I'd love to wish her happy birthday with all of you guys. Can we do that?
Absolutely. Happy birthday, Rachel.
Happy birthday, Rachel.
Happy birthday.
Cumpleaños.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, Mike has a question.
Yeah, mic is closed. What marketing has not worked? You guys mentioned you guys do a lot of things, and you take like a wide approach, but I also imagine that also led you to maybe finding some things that does not work.
Mike, it's a super fair question. It's a really long list of what kind of marketing doesn't work. And the reason I think the list is so long is partially because there's about 25 messages in my LinkedIn, and those guys are already beating down the door. I've got Post-it notes all over my window. So there's always somebody out there willing to sell you something. And in many cases, they don't even understand what they're selling. Never mind, you don't understand what you're buying. So maybe the marketing inherently isn't bad. It's just it's being sold to you in a bad way, and if you don't understand what you're buying, it's going to be bad. But more specifically, in terms of things that I could just tell you straight up are not worth the spend, at least in our space. I touched on it before, but it's all of these lead resellers, and for the reasons I will underscore them again. I think it bears repeating. They're muscling out the guys who can't match their spend. It's that simple. They're taking the market share, they're hoarding the leads, and then they're distributing them out to the highest bidder, right? So if you're spending $3,000 a month, you get more of the leads and you get the warmer ones. And if you're spending $100 a month, then you get whatever falls off the plate. The bottom line is that whether you're in the top or the bottom, you're not the only purchaser of that lead. If I bought the Mike Mellon lead, odds are they also sold it to the guy down the street from me, and the guy up the street from me, and the guy in the next town over, and the guy 4 towns over, depending on what he's willing to pay for it. And at that point, we're all calling at the same time. And in some egregious cases, these are like a Modernize. It's a less known name, but a big entity, big player in this space. They $10,000, they'll send you 500 leads immediately. And these people, you will call them, and they're like, I don't know who you are, where you got, what form you're talking about I filled out. Please stop calling me. And you're like, I just called for the first time. They've been getting phone calls steadily for the last 6 months, like 3 a day. So people hate it, and they're looking at you like you're the enemy because you're the 150th guy to call them. So if I had to tell you what is definitely not worth the squeeze, it's that.
Thank you.
Great. And it also looks like Daryl has a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Daryl.
Maybe not so much a question, but hey, how you guys doing? I wanted to comment earlier. You guys were talking about advice for people starting off in the business, and CEOs kind of get started. So I want to speak to like CEOs that kind of get started out there. I've been doing this for 23 years, but we really didn't kick it off until like the last 3. So I struggled in the business for about 20 years. One of the best advice I can give to anybody starting in the business is to find the right people. you hear that a lot of times they say, if you can't find the right people, maybe you're the problem. So always like look into yourself and say, okay, you know, what is it I really want? What is my goal? What am I trying to get to? How do I get there? One of the reasons why Honeydew Men is really successful right now is because of the people that I've surrounded myself with. So surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, that have, you know, bought into the dream, that have the same aspirations and goals that you do, helps us succeed the company. So by looking within my own company and then promoting up with Scott, and then looking outside at people I knew and bringing Max in, and having those people who believe in the dream and believe in where you want to go, and you know, they have that buy-in, was able to promote us to the levels that we have. I mean, our growth is off the charts. I mean, we made the Inc. 5000 after we promoted Scott and after I brought in Max, and that's when we made the Inc. 5000, and that's when we made the QT 500, because I was able to find people that I could delegate to and say, hey, you know, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, and then they just take the ball and run with it. So surrounding yourself with the right people that believe in what you have, talented people that are skilled, natural ability, whether they're trained or not. A lot of stuff I think comes from within. You know, it's just who they are. That will take you to the next level. So my advice to anybody new starting out is that you will only be able to take yourself so far, and you'll end up plateauing, which is where I was for years and years. We just hit this plateau as a glass ceiling, and we couldn't get through it until I started surrounding myself with people that could take me to the next level. So that would be my advice to anybody out there that's listening, that's kind of new in the business, that's trying to figure out like, hey, I can't get there. Like, I don't understand why I'm being held back. So the marketing and all this and the sales and everything, this is all like vital, but there's no way you can do it on your own. If you don't have a team behind you, if you don't have the support underneath you, you're never going to break that glass ceiling. So just, you know, want to say thank you to Scott and Max for, you know, helping us and helping me to take my dream to the next level. And for everybody else out there, that's what you need. You need that support.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening in, Daryl. Yeah, no, that's great advice, honestly. Yeah, like hiring the right expert. You know, we really focus a lot on that smart sites, making sure that we're creating value for our customers. So yeah, I think Matt also had a question that I'll open it up to.
Yeah, this question would be for, I think, Tom and or John. So we're a customer of Smith, as is Honeydew. So Smith works with a pretty wide variety of different verticals, B2B, B2C, anything you could think of. As the smart sites, we work with, you know, a pretty wide array of different clients. So I think it'd be interesting for people to understand how you go about learning about these businesses, you know, understanding what makes sense for them to say when you pick up the phone, or what their clients, what their differentiators might be. So yeah, how do you basically go about learning about a customer when you bring them on board?
Yeah, sure. I could take that one first, Scott. I'll kind of explain how we do it for any sort of client that we bring on, and then Scott, if you want to add more to your specific instance, that might be a good approach. So we do it really through a combination of teamwork, working directly with the client to get the instance set up, and AI plays a big role as well. So we go through an onboarding process. We're going to make sure our systems are in sync. We understand and we're integrating, if possible, with your CRM, with your billing system, if we're taking payments, with your calendar system, if we're booking meetings directly for you, and making sure that we're aligned from a technological standpoint. And also through that onboarding process, we're going to make sure that we have your custom greeting set up, and we're taking the actions that you're asking of us to take. And we're gathering the information that you want us to gather. Everyone's lead intake process is different. Everyone is asking different questions. So going through that onboarding process is our way of making sure that we have your Smith AI account set up in the way that you need to have conversations and bring on clients in the smoothest, best possible way. The AI works in the background. So a lot of people think that just because our name is Smith AI, that we have AI answering our calls or handling our chats, which isn't the case. We have North America-based agents, and our live human beings are the ones that are managing those calls. AI is a tool that they use in the back end to enable themselves and empower themselves to do a better job of handling and managing those calls. So through a series of prompts, it's able to take the information in the back end that it knows about your business, and it's able to feed that to the agent. So the conversation feels very natural, very fluid, and they're able to be very, very efficient in handling that call. And that's why we're able to really feel as if we're an in-house member of our clients' teams, is through a combination of those things that take place during the onboarding process.
So when we're partnering up with new vendors, so to speak, the main thing, as Tom was mentioned, as Max mentioned before, as John mentioned also, is just making sure that there's a lot of alignment. If it's someone that I can't get in touch with, someone that doesn't join our weekly calls, someone that isn't on the same page as us or the rest of our vendors, the relationship is not going to work. It's not going to flourish. We're not going to be getting what they need out of us. And they're also not, we're not going to be getting what we need out of them. And they're also not going to be getting what they need out of us to make the product that they're providing us the best it possibly can be. So for us, it's really about just keeping very open lines of communication, stating our expectations, and keeping everybody in line with exactly what those expectations are. We've tried to work with a lot of different partners, and unfortunately, some of those relationships didn't work and they didn't last because we couldn't gain that level of alignment. They didn't see exactly where we were going. They didn't see the vision. The people you're working with, your strategic partners, need to understand your vision for the company and where you're trying to take it in order to assist you. And so without that, it's really never going to work.
Yeah. Actually, just to piggyback on Scott for a quick second here, not even just me and Scott. I mean, people around my office here are on first name basis with folks from Smart Sites or folks from Smith AI in some cases too. That's a whole different level of alignment, right? I can go to my CSR and go, hey, oh, this happened. You know who to go to. And they're like, yep, I got to go to Tanner or whoever. That's huge. It's like they're part of your team.
Yeah, an extension of your team. Yep. Awesome. Any other questions before we kind of wrap things up?
Yeah, well, let me ask one more, maybe the last one, and this one's I think to John. John, you know, leading the small business team, you work with a lot of small businesses. Inevitably, not all of them are like Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies, right? You know, from your side of things, you know, what do you see that Honeydew Men maybe has done, you know, different, better, you know, that led them to the success that, you know, your other clients really should be doing, maybe, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely a few facets that they have that they're doing really well in. One is definitely just with their customer service. I'd say is number one. Always responsive. I know Daryl's out there even on some jobs on his own, so I know they're out there all the time. Also, a big thing that they're into that has helped is the community outreach. I think being engraved in your community and making sure that you're, you know, doing things for your community, whether it's value of sponsorships or, hey, we're doing, I know Honeydew Men every holiday season does like a lighting event that they do at their office that's big as well. Trunk or treating, just getting your name out there with the community, I think helps as well. And they do that really well. And then I'd say the last piece here is also with the video content. They do really well, and that engages very well as well. That includes testimonials, reviews. Daryl has some like how-to videos that do really well. So just being able to, I think the way that they're engraved in so many different facets, whether it's on a digital end, in the community or through TV or even print, that's what they're doing really well. And then just to provide that A+ customer service on top of that is what I think brings them a step above.
Great. And I saw Daryl has his hand raised. Is there another question or comment? Or maybe it was just an old hand raise.
Yeah, no, that was old. Sorry.
My bad. All right. Well, I think that concludes the discussion, and we're about, you know, at the end of the hour. So if there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Just want to thank the panelists one last time, as well as everyone who listened in. I know your time is really valuable, so it means a lot that you all hopped on with us today. Should any questions come up in the future, please feel free to reach out to us at Smart Sites. We'd love to help you out or just provide any advice. And I hope that everybody has a great rest of their Wednesday. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks for having
everyone.
us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.